Like
I
when
went
there are
into
no
the
women
male
around and it's
body.
just a bunch of dudes.
Not
They're
wrong
fucking
at all.
gross.
All right, Chase, do I need to tell one of my stories?
Okay.
Tell
I
your
got one
story.
too.
Oh. For children will get. It's not confusing and it is not harmful. Yeah, it's not connecting anyone. It's not connecting, Ocean. If you want to message me, I don't know. All right, I'm going to end. I'll be on tomorrow morning, guys. See ya. Have a good night, everyone. It shows sometimes they're connected, but then it like doesn't show them for me. It's like being really weird in how it kicked everyone out at once.
You see how to try to grab and to like reach
culture. For instance, high heels were originally worn by Persian soldiers in battle. They were worn by archers to help them make better shots, and they were worn by butchers so they didn't step in blood. So it was considered very masculine to wear high heels, whereas now it would be considered primarily feminine. Also, red is considered a masculine color, and pink was considered a masculine color in the Middle Ages because it was seen as the younger version of red. So men would wear red and boys would wear pink. But now we see pink and we associate it with femininity, because the things that we assign masculinity and femininity to don't have any biological basing. Losing the word there. But there's nothing that objectively makes pink or blue feminine or masculine. So taking on these characteristics has nothing to do with biology. It has everything to do with a cultural social identity that is specifically unique to humankind. I did answer the question. I said what a woman was. I said a woman is a person whose identity falls within their culture's archetype of femininity. There's no scientific basis for your argument. There's actually a lot of scientific basis for my argument. First of all, there are certain structures in the brain that trans people have more similar to the gender that they identify with than the one they were arbitrarily assigned at birth. We see examples of our culture, like I just gave examples of feminine and masculine things that aren't objectively feminine or masculine. Like you cannot say that there is an objective way to be a man or an objective way to be a woman, because there's so many different ways to interpret gender identity. I can tell you got that in gender studies. I'm actually a biology student. Many people love to laugh at that because their understanding of biology stops at 5th grade. And they think, oh, you don't know basic biology. Actually, I know basic biology, and I know more complex, advanced biology. Which means that my understanding is going to be greater than someone who stopped learning biology when they couldn't even buy fish at Petco yet. When they dig you up 1,000 years from now, they'll determine if you're male or female. I'm gonna get cremated. So, biology's in top. For me, it was 6th grade, but. If the definition of a woman is subjective, then what is a trans woman? Yeah, so a trans woman would be someone who was not assigned female at birth. So the words, the prefixes cis and trans just mean on the same side of and on the other side of, respectively. They're Latin prefixes. So someone who is cis, for instance, would be a woman who is assigned female at birth. Because we assign these gender roles and these expectations based on biology, it's arbitrary. And for the same people who argue, we shouldn't be forcing gender identities onto kids, well, if you're having a gender reveal party with pink confetti and stuffing your child into only dresses, and only referring to your child as a girl and says that she's gonna grow up to be, a wife, that is forcing gender stereotypes. That's forcing gender identity on a child who has no conception of themselves yet. So it's just as problematic to force cis kids into gender identities as it is to force trans kids into gender identities. They are chemistry terms. Correct. Cis and trans are used in chemistry to talk about the orientation of molecules. So the joints are on the same side. It's a cis orientation. Again, cis means on the same side.
Oh my
And
god,
there are
why would I do
things
this?
just to make substituents on the other side. It's also used in biology to talk about gene expression. If the location on the chromosome for gene expression is like, if it's on the same chromosome as the gene itself, it's said to be cis. So we use the prefixes cis and trans in multiple contexts in science. Also, I am not even out of college yet. I'm in the final year of my bio degree. I'm not looking at having kids. So by doing these lives, aren't you forcing your opinions and beliefs on others? No. Really easy. If you don't want to listen, I think there's far worse problems in the world. There are tons of problems in the world, but this is one that very much impacts me personally as a non-binary person, as a trans person, because I'm trans. There's a lot of anti-trans legislation being proposed right now that specifically endangers my ability to express myself, my authentic self, to go by my pronouns, to go by my preferred name rather than my dead name. There are a lot of very real, very present threats to the trans community, specifically because of this pervasive narrative that the LGBT community is somehow trying to prey on children, which is not only untrue, but it's extremely hurtful and damaging to the LGBT community, because the LGBT community isn't trying to convert children into being gay or trans, because people who are in the LGBT community know the horrors of having to live an identity that's not truthfully yours. So if a trans person has been forced to live in the wrong identity for their entire lives, why do they want to immediately turn around and force that upon a child? Like, that's ridiculous. As someone who was forced to grow up as, a girl and then a cis woman, when that's not my true identity, I'm not going to try to force someone else to do that. What I do want is I want kids to know that it's okay if they are queer, if they are trans, that they are accepted and they are not any less of a person because of it. Because when I grew up, I was told that I was inherently damaged if I was queer, that I was going to be damned to hell, because I grew up in a very religious atmosphere. So I had this horrible belief that I was forever doomed just because I had a crush on a girl. That's a horrible, horrible way to live. And I had to lie to myself for so many years, trying to say, oh no, I don't like a girl. Like, that's wrong, that's sinful, I'm gonna go to hell for that. I want kids to not have that same experience. That's what I want. I'm not trying to force kids to be trans. I just want kids to know they'll be accepted however they are, however they authentically are.
That one hurt.
And I understand that kids of a certain age are not able to understand the complexities of gender. And I don't think gender should be forced on those kids, be them cis or trans. But recognizing the existence of queer people in class is not necessarily forcing it upon people. Hi, babe.
Friendly care package on the way.
So, once again, I am non-binary. Is this live? Yes. your cat is non-binary. Well, she is fixed, so if you're going off of reproductive parts,
Would you like some non-binary Gatorade?
this is gender fluid.
It is gender fluid. Would you like some soy?
Guys, I'm drinking the gender fluid.
Would you like some soy? We have soy.
I want all the soy you have.
Oh, there's a green laser. Oh my god.
This is my soy boy. You a woman, period. No.
Bro.
Gatorade is horrible for you. Oh, why does it taste good?
Friendly cluster mine deployed.
Bro can't accept herself. I fully accept myself. Can't make yourself a woman if you don't have a birth canal.
Enemy
Gross.
UAV overhead.
Birth canal. Yeah. No, that's
Hostile mortar
awful.
strike near your position.
Your partner's so sweet. Yes, he is. I love him.
Did it flip again?
Explain non-binary.
No, not fully.
So again, that's
No,
a
it didn't
common
flip.
misunderstanding. So I'm not trying to say I'm not male or female. I am a female. However, I am saying that I am not a woman. So when we look at gender identity, I myself and many others see it as a spectrum of identities. A
They're
bimodal
camping
spectrum,
extra
in which
hard
we
now.
have
They think
womanhood
they're
on
gonna come
one
back and
hand
win.
Manhood on the other. So people who
Especially
see gender
during the
identity as a
course.
spectrum see this whole range of identities
I don't
in
know
the
what
middle,
else
like
to
this
do. I'm trying to
uncountable
level
number
the
of
damn
ways to express
Our
and
UAV
gender.
is orbiting the
So
area.
I
Taking-
feel that I am somewhere along that spectrum. And the word
Trying to get
binary
these
is in
headshots.
two states. So if you believe in a gender binary, you would believe that there's only man and woman. But I believe in a spectrum, and I don't believe in that binary. I believe my gender falls outside of the binary.
Middle of the bridge, middle of the
Therefore,
bridge.
I am non-binary. Again, has nothing to do with my biology. I am
Middle
a
tunnel.
female, but I am not a
Oh, he was
woman.
laying down. Laying down next to the fire truck at the tunnel
Jesus
side of the fire
created
truck.
man. Jesus didn't create anything, but the Father created creation in the Bible. Trust the science. I do, because I actually study it. Get a life and a hobby.
Hmm.
Trust the science. I go to school.
The grenade.
I have two
The grenade
cats,
hit me.
I have a lovely boyfriend.
They're
I don't
slowly
think I have
catching up
anything else
here.
To take up my time. Am I a Christian?
Wait,
Not
two more
anymore,
hits
no.
to
I
death
was
or not?
indoctrinated into the church from a
Everything.
very young age. And
What am I?
remained a part of it
16 and
until
8.
I
I'm alright.
became
I'm
an
doing
adult.
okay.
And I was able
I'd
to
see that
make
guy in
my
Last Stand going in Last Stand a lot. He needs to stop
realize
dying.
that I didn't really identify with
Hostile
it.
chopper gunner incoming.
Go to therapy. I do.
Chopper gunner, huh?
Therapy.
Let's shoot that
It is a
down.
really great tool. I
Got some bullets in it. Got a magazine in it.
therapy.
Nice. Good
I
shit.
grew up in an environment that
They're close, though.
stigmatized therapy greatly, and it had a huge negative impact on me. Because I thought that people
Slowed down.
who sought professional help
Yeah.
was crazy, and they were insane, and needed to be locked away. But therapy is a really, really great tool for learning to process your emotions. So therapy
No
is a
kid,
huge
you ain't gonna lay
reason
there.
why-
I'm reloading.
Hello.
Hi.
Enemy here.
Hi, you able to hear me?
Do what? I'm sorry. I didn't hear.
Are you able to hear?
Oh yeah, I am now.
Drop their sniper.
Great. So, what you want to talk about?
Are you debating? Is this like a debate like before? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It can be.
If you don't mind me asking, what do you call yourself or whatever?
Friendly UAV online.
I'm non-binary. You can call me Robot Goat. You can call me T, whichever one you want.
I gotcha. So you said you're trans?
Yeah. So being non-binary means that I am under the so-called trans umbrella, which means a range of identities that are transgender.
I got it.
Okay.
So 5-piece there.
So that means you like girls?
No, gender has nothing to do with sexuality. I am bisexual, which means that I am attracted to and I've dated both men and women.
Okay. I mean, I was more coming on here to, kind of get information or whatever, or
Mm.
learn.
Or
Yeah.
Being
so
trained.
Over,
your
man.
sex
They ain't gonna
biology
win.
In the area.
refers
They
to
can't recover
who
from
you're
this.
attracted
Friendly
to,
care package
whereas your
inbound.
gender identity refers to your concept of self. So it has nothing to do
Friendly
with
care package in
who
the
you're
area.
care package
romantically or
then, too.
sexually attracted to. So my gender being non-binary just means
Hopefully
that
they get a
I don't
tactical
feel that I
nuke
quite
in
fit into
mind.
the box of either man or woman. But I'm bisexual, which means that I'm
Friendly
attracted
UAV
to
on
and
station.
I've dated
Oh,
men and
UAV.
women. You don't have to date
Nice.
both to be bisexual. It just refers to who you're attracted to. But I feel like clarifying that I've dated
Friendly
both.
Wilson
Oh, Wilson.
online.
Yeah, drive that
Okay,
shit way
well,
over
I
there and
thought
kill all those
trans
fools.
was the where you switch from
Our
one
guys are in
sex
the
to
middle,
the
One
other.
minute remaining.
going down the street.
So
How's
when
that?
people are
Yeah.
transgender, they're not claiming to be
Our guys are in the middle of the tunnel right now.
So sex refers to your physiological and your anatomical characteristics, like your chromosomes, like your genitalia, your hormone
that one out
levels,
there
so
on the
on and so
ground.
forth. People who are transgender are not trying to claim that they changed their sex. They're talking about their gender identity. So when I'm claiming I'm non-binary, I'm not trying to claim that I'm neither male nor female. I'm a female, but I don't fall
30 seconds
into
remain.
these archetypes of being feminine or masculine in that nature. Right now I'm presenting
No,
very
no, no.
feminine. Very often
Mission
I'm
is
not,
complete. Good
but on
work.
here it seems to be important to do so. So trans, the prefix
Don't
trans
kill my
literally just
teammate right
means
next
on
to
the
me.
other side of or the opposite side of. So if you have a gender identity that is different from what you are assigned at birth, then you are transgender. For example, I was assigned female at birth, I was raised as a girl, for a while I was a woman, and then I realized I was non-binary. So my current gender identity is different from what I was assigned at birth, therefore I am transgender.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nothing to be sorry for.
No, I mean so what are the people that change from male to female? They're just called transgendered?
So some people have a condition called gender dysphoria. And gender dysphoria just means that they feel very uncomfortable in their body because we as a society often relate these biological characteristics or physical appearance to gender identities. So for example, a trans man who was assigned female at birth might feel gender dysphoria because they have a large chest, because we know females tend to have more breast tissue. So if they have gender dysphoria, then they opt for certain treatments to try to relieve that dysphoria, which might include what's called top surgery or a mastectomy, which is removing breast tissue to give a flatter and more traditionally masculine appearance.
Okay, so
Economics.
this is kind of confusing.
I know it's a lot, but not all trans people have dysphoria. I don't feel that my body in any way takes away from my gender identity. Way that you could get gender affirming care, because if I were to try to appear more masculine, then that wouldn't be really true to how I feel either. So for me, it kind of just depends on my expression of my gender. So right now I look pretty feminine. Most of the time I don't.
So what you're basically saying is trans people that are transgender or whatever are just kind of confused of what sex they should be, or
No. So again, it doesn't have to do with their biological sex. So we're talking about gender identity. So if I were to describe someone and I said that this person had long hair, high heels, and a dress, would you think that they were a man or a woman?
I mean, I guess it would depend on if they had like a mustache, you know what I mean?
Well, if I just described those characteristics to you, long hair, high heels, a dress, would you think, oh, thank you for the sunglasses, would you think that it's a man or a woman based on that description?
Well, today you can't tell.
I think you would say that that's a pretty feminine appearance, right?
Well, yeah, if
I
you're wearing a
most people are
dress,
saying
that's a woman. Women wear dresses, you know what I mean?
Right, but there's nothing biological about dresses. Dresses are a piece of cloth. So what we do
Yeah.
to make ourselves seem more feminine or masculine isn't related to our biology. Anyone can put on a dress. Anyone except someone with like alopecia can grow out long hair. Anyone can put on high heels. So based on these like certain characteristics,
Right,
you
but
can't
it's
judge someone's biology.
but it's how they present themselves with their long hair and their dress and all this, though.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I
But
mean?
those aren't
It's
related to biology because, you know, plenty of men grow out long hair. So if a man puts on a dress and high heels, that doesn't inherently make him a woman, but that's a feminine presenting like gender expression.
yeah,
And it's not based in biology because a dress doesn't have genitals, high heels don't have chromosomes, and long hair doesn't have hormones. So
right. But like well, say you go into the store, the tag on it says women's, you know what I mean? The dress.
does that
So,
mean that,
you know what I
that
mean?
only women can wear it?
I mean, no.
Great. That's settled that pretty easily.
I mean, but it's made for women. You know what I mean?
Well, it can be made for anyone. Just because we typically associate dresses with femininity doesn't mean that they have a biological component that makes them feminine. Like, if you think about it, technically, dresses and skirts could be better suited to men if we're going, like, if you're going off of, like, male genitalia. Pants would be better suited to the female anatomy, and skirts would be better suited to the male anatomy. But we kind of have it the other way around. For a very long time,
Wait,
it
wait,
was
wait.
looked
Say
down
that
upon for
again.
women to wear pants.
I'm sorry. Say that again. My phone was, you know what I mean, lagging.
I'm just saying, if you're looking at in terms of strictly biology, the female biology would be better suited for pants, and the male biology would be better suited for skirts. But we kind of swap it around.
Well, yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, but that's how they like fashion.
That's
That's how
what
they
we've
start.
decided.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Do you
that.
think at the
Whoever
beginning of
made
humanity, at the very
whoever made
beginning of
skirts
humanity,
was like,
when there
we're,
wasn't
we're
like
making these for
a
women.
cohesive culture yet, do you think they were going, "Oh, you are a woman, so you have to wear this specific thing," or do you think clothes were more utilitarian?
I feel like that when they made clothes, they said we're making skirts, and this is for women's fashion. We make these baggy, what, uh,
I'm talking about
jeans
the
or whatever.
beginning of humanity, before sewing
At the
machines,
beginning of humanity,
before like the beginning of humanity. Do you think when we first started wearing clothes that we said, you know, women have to wear this and men have to wear this?
when they were wearing like bear skin,
Sure, we can go with wearing furs. Do you think that there was a specific way that men and women had to wear furs?
I guess it depends on well, yeah,
You
if they
do.
wanted to
Why?
cover up their privates, because women have
Both.
chest area. It's like wearing a
Why
bikini
would
and
they cover up their chest?
shorts.
Why would they have covered up their chest back then?
Well, you've read the Bible, right?
I don't believe in it, but I'm aware of it. Yes.
Right. Well, when Adam and Eve were, aware they were naked, they covered themselves. So
Great, but
that's why.
that's not how humanity actually began. So if we're talking about like the actual rise of Homo sapiens, it's not fig leaves covering the breasts.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't really base it off of that because who would know? You know what I mean? That's
Paleontologists can
so
get a pretty
far.
good idea.
Who?
Paleontologists can get a pretty good idea. People who dig up bones and artifacts.
Uh-huh. Well, what is
Archaeologists.
their idea?
So we had a very, very, very old ancestor, Australopithecus. That's like a hominid that's somewhat related to Homo sapiens, but came before us. and they were just using very, very basic tools. And they were some of the earliest hominids to be bipeds, meaning that they move around on 2 feet. I do not think that they were making a specific differentiation between how furs should be worn. It only makes sense to me that it would be worn for utility. You know, if you are in an environment that is cold, you're going to wear furs to not be cold. You're not going to try to, you know, wear furs a specific way because you're a man or a woman. And breasts being sexualized is a cultural thing. So before that idea of breasts being sexualized existed, I don't think that they would have any reason to specifically cover up breasts.
Oh yeah, I'm sure not. They I mean some cultures still expose
Right.
their breasts.
So like when you were saying, you know, that they would try to cover the chest area, that's not true.
But them same cultures, they the women, they have different hairstyles than the men do. They still have long
That's
hair
cultural.
and the men
Again,
have short
it's
hair.
cultural. That's not biological, that's cultural. And many indigenous cultures, the men do have long hair or did have long hair. And even many cultures mentioned in the Bible, the men had long hair. If you remember in the Old Testament, like one of the rules
They
given
had
is to
long
not.
beards too.
I'm just saying that when you say that they had certain hairstyles, we have a lot of examples of men with very long hair in the Bible because cutting your hair was a no-no.
Well, yeah, but I mean, hair. I mean, you can't really go by it from their hair. You know what I mean?
Right, but you're the one who said that they had different hairstyles for men and women, and I'm just saying that that's a cultural thing.
Yeah, but before
That's not
that, you
necessarily
said
an inherent biological
you were
thing because
comparing it
anyone
to
can have
hair,
long hair.
right?
Right,
But
you were the
before I
one who
even
said
said anything,
that they had different styles for men and women. So I was showing how that doesn't
yeah,
really matter because it's cultural.
okay. So I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but I mean, explain me your point. I mean, what is your end game here? Like, just awareness?
Awareness is a big component of it because there's a lot of anti-trans legislature being proposed in the United States right now. So my hope is that by clarifying some things about the trans community and by having conversations like this, that some people will understand that trans people just want to exist equally with other people, and to try to
Yeah.
clear away some of the propaganda that seems to be everywhere about trans people. To maybe stop the spread of this anti-trans legislation because it's very concerning as a trans person. I mean, we already see states that are forcibly detransitioning, like anyone under 18. We're seeing some states propose forced detransitioning for under 26. And we have Trump who says that if he's elected again, he wants to get rid of transitioning for everyone. And trans people would no longer be allowed to exist under his beliefs.
You said in some
That's
states
concerning.
they are. You said I'm sorry. You said in some states they're detransitioning for underage. What?
For under
Explain
the
that to
age of
me.
18. So some kids who are diagnosed with gender dysphoria, the medical consensus is that they should be given gender affirming care. Gender affirming care can include socially transitioning, such as going by a new name or pronouns. It can include things like puberty blockers, which are reversible gonadotropin inhibitors that prevent secondary sex characteristics from developing. And later on for like older people, you know, 16, 17, sometimes 18-year-olds, it can mean hormone replacement therapy. It does not mean surgeries. No one is performing gender affirming surgeries on
But
minors.
it's like it's like giving them drugs to transition, right?
So it's when we're talking about hormone replacement therapy, that is
Yeah.
technically like for the purpose of medically transitioning, but puberty blockers are not for the purpose of transitioning. It's actually to halt the effects of puberty so that those characteristics don't develop.
Okay. Well, don't you think you don't think they should have to wait till they're adults to decide these things?
So again, this is only given to people who are specifically diagnosed with gender dysphoria, which is a medical condition. So to say that, like, to recognize that a kid has a medical condition but refuse to treat it because they're still a kid does not make sense to me.
Okay. Well, you know, some people say that that's a mental issue.
Well, it
Like,
is a mental condition, and it's treated with gender affirming care, such as puberty blockers, such as HRT, and later on, perhaps certain gender affirming surgeries.
well, if it's a mental issue, why wouldn't you try to fix the mental issue before you proceed to change your physical self?
Yeah, so the mental issue in this case comes from the physical self. So we have several studies that show that gender affirming care provided to those who want it have better like mental health outcomes later in life, like lower suicidality. So we see that treating with
But
gender affirming care
that's
in like
depression.
no what
People with
yeah if
depression.
we yeah it's the way that gender dysphoria is treated, which is fixing the mental issue, is through gender affirming care. And to those who are like, why don't you just go to therapy? Gender affirming care, to have any sort of like medical transitioning, requires like at least a year's time of seeing a medical professional, such as a psychiatrist. No one is going to be given puberty blockers after like one session with a doctor. That's not what happens. It's a very, very long course of treatment. There's some people whose transitions can take them well over a decade.
Okay. Well, um, if you say it's a mental issue, shouldn't they try to fix the issue mentally before they
Again, this is
try to
how
change
they
it?
fix the issue. The issue is fixed with gender affirming care. Now, for some people, it may not mean making medical changes, it
Well,
may just mean making
you
social
say
changes, but that's
gender
still gender
affirming.
affirming care.
You say gender affirming care is changing your physical self. So
Not
that's what I'm
necessarily.
getting at. Why
Like I
wouldn't
just said, for some people, gender affirming care can just mean socially transitioning. So I myself, I socially transitioned. I started using different pronouns and a different name than my birth name. That for me was my transition. That might be a form of gender affirming care to someone. It's not all the same. Now, I'm not diagnosed with gender dysphoria, so my social transitioning was not overseen by a medical professional. But for anyone to medically transition, they have to have been seeing a professional for a while.
Yeah. Okay. When you say minors, or you know, people under 18 would have to have seen for how long? How long would they have been had to seen a doctor for before they do all that stuff?
The general rule is a year's time.
A year?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you know your brain don't fully develop till you're like 25, right?
But again, we're talking about a medical condition. We are not just talking about a kid who just says, "Hey, I think I'm a different gender." We're talking about specifically a child who suffers from gender dysphoria, which is a diagnosable medical condition. So if a kid came to you and said, "Hey, I have really bad pain in my belly," and you took him to a doctor and you found out they had appendicitis, would you say, "I want to wait to get that appendix out because their brain isn't fully developed yet"?
Oh no, I would wait until their body is able to handle the surgery.
They would probably be more negatively impacted by their appendix giving out than by a laparoscopic appendectomy. And I can say that because I, as a minor, had a laparoscopic appendectomy.
Okay. But you know, people that are sick have like say a lung infection and they can't have surgery until their body can handle the surgery.
Okay, so if a
So
child has a
as like a
condition,
metaphor, that would be like trying to fix the mental problem before you fix the physical problem, or you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
you keep saying fix the mental problem. Again, gender affirming care is the fix for the mental condition of gender dysphoria. That is treating the mental condition. I
Well, you
understand that it's
said
hard to, because you think, oh, medication, but medication can be used for like mental conditions, such as people taking antidepressants if they have clinical depression. So yeah, therapy can be a great aid for people with clinical depression, but they can also, if appropriate, take antidepressants to help regulate their chemical
So
imbalance.
you're saying gender affirming care is just like therapy? You don't have to like.
There are a ton of different ways to have gender affirming care. It can be therapy, it can be medications, it can be puberty blockers. Like there's no
Well, what kind of
one way
what,
for gender affirming
what
care.
kind of
It's based
therapy?
off of the patient. Like
What
like
kind of
again, I'll
therapy?
use depression as an example. For someone with depression, there's no one singular way that can help someone with depression.
Well, yeah,
There's a
everyone's
reason why
different.
therapy and medications and we have inpatient and outpatient programs. There are many different ways to help treat clinical depression.
Well, what kind of therapy would they go through? You know what I mean? What would they tell them like in therapy? Like, oh, if you believe you're a girl, go grow some tits or something.
No. So if they were to talk to a therapist, it'd probably look something like the therapist asking them about like why they came in the first place. Oh, thank you for the corgi, adorable. Like what brought them there today, how they feel. Maybe ask about like how they see themselves. It's not like a kid walks in and they're immediately like, here are hormones. Again, it can take a year for puberty blockers to be prescribed, or for older patients, HRT. It's
Well,
not
right, but
going to
that's
be
just the next step after therapy. Why
not
why
necessarily.
wouldn't you?
That's not necessarily the next step. So for some patients it may be, but not for all patients. Like I said before, for some people it may just be socially transitioning.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not. You're using my words too literal. You know what I mean? You're like, it's like not.
Being precise.
Yeah, you're being too. What's the word? I don't even. You're being too literal. I guess I don't know.
I don't see how that's a problem.
It's like I don't know. You said something in a live one time, like oh shit, what was it? I don't know. Forget. I done forgot what it was, but I mean, it was like somebody had said something, and then you had tried to contradict what they said because of the way they said it. You know what I mean?
Well, if people say something that's not accurate, I am going to correct them on that because I don't want the spread of incorrect or harmful information on my live. This is my platform. So if someone says something that isn't
not
true,
what they were saying, it's how they said it.
But like you suggesting that, kids walk into a clinic and talk to a therapist and the therapist says, chop your tits off, that's incorrect. That's harmful misinformation.
Nobody said chop your tits off.
You said that like 2 minutes ago when
No,
you
and then I
asked.
said grow some tits.
Oh, I thought you said chop your tits off, didn't you?
Yeah. But that's what I was talking about, hormone therapy or whatever.
Yeah, my point remains the same. You know that's not what therapy would be like. That makes absolutely no sense. You're reducing gender affirming care down to the supposed idea of like forcing medical transitioning on people, which is not always the case, and that's harmful to say. It carries out this
Look,
like
I didn't
really
say that.
weird idea of what trans
that's what
people
I'm talking
are
about
and
right
why they
there. I didn't say
transition. I'm
it,
going
but
to
you
continue talking
suggested
because
that I
I was
did say it.
speaking first. So I'm going to continue speaking. So saying things like that is harmful, and I'm going to correct you.
Okay, but I didn't say that.
We corrected you, right? You said grow some tits.
Yeah, but you said it as if I meant it literal,
As if you were
and
being
I said it to harm somebody, but I
being
didn't.
dismissive of gender affirming care. Yes, that is how you said it. And I've been pretty polite and patient
Well, yeah, because
with
I don't believe
your
in it.
questions that are really more just trying to pick apart trans people's identities. But
See,
everyone's
that's another
patience
assumption.
has
You're
limits,
assuming
right?
stuff
So
now.
if you're going to continue to be disrespectful, then we don't have to continue this conversation.
Okay, but let me just say one thing. I sat there and let you know what I mean. You were talking over me and stuff like that, but forget all that. Now, I'm sorry, I got off track. You were talking about how something about beliefs in one of your lives or something like that.
Belief?
Yeah, you were saying don't push your beliefs on other people or something like that.
Oh, are you talking about when I talked about beliefs versus identity?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah, so for example, I can respect someone's identity as a Christian even though I don't believe in the Christian doctrine or Christian beliefs. So even though I don't believe that Jesus is Messiah or that God is even real, if someone comes up to me and says I'm a Christian, I'll say, okay, you're a Christian. I don't have to accept Christian beliefs. I'm just respecting the Christian identity. So if someone comes up to me and says, hey, I'm a woman and they're a trans woman, I don't have to accept the fact that gender and sex are different and that gender is a social identity if I'm being respectful of that person's identity. So as long as you're being respectful of someone's identity, you don't have to necessarily accept their beliefs.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like I just don't believe in the uh going from male to female, you know what I mean?
Well, that's very disappointing for you to say, not because you disagree, but because at the very beginning of this conversation, we discussed how it's not male and female, how we're not talking about biological sex, and we're talking about gender identity. So you saying that makes it clear to me that you did not actually listen to what I said to you this entire conversation, which is very frustrating.
What did you say at the beginning?
I actually reiterated it many times that people are not trying to claim that they've changed their sex. They are saying that they are a different gender. Sex is biological, gender is not. We went through the whole thing of, we have these characteristics that are non biological, but we still perceive them as feminine or masculine.
Yeah. But I mean, my beliefs, like I'm a Christian, I'm Protestant. I don't believe in I mean, I that's fine. You do what you want to do, but it's just not it's just not something that I feel like is right, you know what I mean?
How was Jesus conceived
I don't know.
in the Bible? How was Jesus conceived?
I have no idea.
You have no
Through
idea
Mary?
how Jesus
Yeah,
was
Mary
conceived.
had him.
Correct.
Mary gave birth to him.
So who was the male involved in Jesus' conception?
I guess it was God. I have no idea.
God is not a human, so God cannot be a male, because God doesn't have a body to have biological characteristics. So who is the male involved?
I don't know. This is, I guess,
There was no
having
male
faith.
involved. There was no male
Well, having
involved.
faith is.
So when we're talking about biological sex, the way that our chromosomes, our sex determining chromosomes, are decided are based on maternal and paternal gametes. But in the case of Jesus in the Bible, there would be only maternal gametes, which would be only female gametes. Meaning that because there was no male DNA involved in the conception of Jesus, he could not have possibly been a biological male, yet he's still referred to as a man all throughout the Bible. So either you have to accept the premise that Jesus was not immaculately conceived and therefore could have had male DNA, or Jesus was a biological female who was referred to as a man throughout the Bible.
Okay, so I shouldn't be offended by what you're saying about my religion, but from what you believe from you, but
These are objective truths. You cannot have a male resulting from only female gametes, because female gametes only carry X chromosomes. The chromosomal makeup of a genetic male is XY. There's no Y chromosome from a female gamete, therefore Jesus could not have had a Y chromosome.
Okay. You know those stories in the Bible are from people that wrote about his life.
Okay, so are you
You know
saying
what I
that they
mean?
were incorrect about him being immaculately conceived?
No, I'm just saying there was probably things that they didn't tell us,
Such as what?
such as how God impregnated Mary. Maybe the guy wasn't
So do
there.
you think God sent a male to impregnate Mary?
Probably. A female didn't do it.
Mary, well, no one did according to the Bible. Because if you remember specifically, an archangel appeared to Joseph because Joseph thought that Mary had been unfaithful and had lost her virginity because she was pregnant. And an angel was sent to Joseph to say no, that she was still a virgin. So no one had sex with Mary in the Bible. Thank God, because she was a child, a literal child, 13 or 14. So no male had sex with Mary.
Is this how old Mary was in the Bible?
Archaeologists have determined her to be around 13 or 14.
How did they find that out?
All right, Mary, Mother of Jesus, was born around 18 BC, died
I
around
mean,
48 AD, and Jesus
I'm
was
I'm really
born in around
legit curious
3.
about it.
Jesus was born
You
in
said
around
how old?
So Jesus was not actually born at like 0 AD or 0 BC. So if we were to look at this would mean that Mary had Jesus when she was 15, therefore she would have been 14 at the time Jesus was conceived. So we are talking about